guys, welcome back to my channel. So an important part of performance on your investment portfolio is something called returns, or also known as return on investment. In today's video, I wanted to cover how to calculate your return on investment, including your annual returns as well as your total returns, and why those numbers are important. Return metrics are used to calculate how much your investment grew from the day you first put that money in to what your value is worth now or when you have sold that investment. There are two key concepts here. One is the total return and two is the annualized return. Starting with the total return is the amount of total gains that your investment has realized from day one when you first put that money in to today's value or whatever you're selling that at. This measures the total gains that your investment has realized over that period of time, whether that's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, etc. This is time neutral on the calculation. Total returns is also known as your cash-on-cash return. This is measuring the total amount of cash that you have gained from your investment over the certain amount of time that you've been investing. This is not something that is calibrated by time. The equation for total returns is just the total value that your investment is worth today or the value that you have sold your investment at divided by your initial investment, also known as your principal. So let's go over an example.
Okay, so here we have the problem set up where in year 0, I put $100 in investments. 3 years later, that investment has grown to $130. So not bad. The question here is, how do I calculate my total return? The formula for total return is total value, or whatever value you sold it at or what value it's worth today, divided by your initial investments minus 1 to get that into a percentage form. So now that we know the formula, let's calculate the numbers. 130 is the value divided by 100, our initial, minus 1 equals 0.3, or to put that in percentage forms, 30%. From day 0, that $100 has grown by 30% into $130. So that's total return.
The second concept is called the annual returns. This is the annualized average return that your investment has realized over the amount of time that you held it. Investments generally grow at different rates over the different number of years, but this concept is asking if you had to average that out over the number of years that you've held it at, what on average is the rate that your investments are growing at? So let's do an example to illustrate how annual returns are calculated.
So with annual returns, the problem here is in year 0, I have put in $100 in investments, okay? And then year 1, my investment grew by 10%. And then the next year, in year 2, my investment grew by 15%. So now the question is, what is my investment now worth at the end of year 2? And what is my annual return? As a reminder, the annual return formula is the value today or the value you sold it at divided by your initial value to the power of 1 over the number of years you've held this investment for minus 1 to get it into percentage forms. So to solve this problem, we have to first look at whether we have all the variables in the formula. Okay, so do we have initial? Check, that's 100. Do we have the years? Check, 2 years. And now, do we need to solve for anything else? Yes, we need to solve for the value. What is my value of the investment today? So how do we do that? Well, 100 is the year 0 investment. It grew by 10% in year 1, so that's plus 1 plus 0.1 equals 1.1 times 100. In year 2, my investment grew by 15%, so that's 1.15. So multiplying all of that gives me the value at the end of year 2, which is $126.5. So that's my investment value at the end of year 2. And that's what I should plug in for my numerator. Now that we know the value of the numerator and all of the other variables, we can solve for our annual returns. We know the value is 126.5, so plugging in that as a numerator. Then we have the initial investment, which is $100. And then we need to do a power of 1 over the number of years. Here, the number of years we've invested is 2. So we've invested in this for 2 years, so 1 over 2. And we minus all of that by 1 to get it into a decimal form. The result is 0.125, or in percentage forms, it's 12.5%, meaning that every single year on average, my investment has grown by 12.5%.
Both total returns and annual returns are important metrics to use when calculating the performance of your investment portfolio. Total returns is a good way to see the gains that your investment is getting from start to finish. Annual returns is a good metric to compare apples to apples for different investments that you've held for different amounts of time. Since the annual returns is an average annualized rate, you're able to compare across different time horizons. So if you had an investment that you invested for 3 years and an investment that you've held for 6 years, you can calculate the annualized return on both. And because an annualized return is the rate on average that your investment has grown every single year, you're able to use this as an apples to apples comparison to compare the performance across these two investments, even though they have different investment hold periods. So a quick recap. The two key metrics when calculating returns. The first one is the total return. Total return is just the amount of cash or amount of value that your investment would be worth today or when you sold it versus the amount that it costs you to put down that initial investment. Another reminder here, this is the formula. Annual return, on the other hand, is used to measure the annualized average rate that your investment is growing at across the amount of years that you have invested. So although for the number of years that you have invested, every single year may have been a different growth rate, what it attempts to do is to create what the average would imply on a every single year annual basis. Thanks for tuning into today's video. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And if you thought this video was helpful, please give it a like because it really supports my channel. This is going to be a series of multiple videos that I will be uploading in order to discuss different metrics, different ways to analyze an investment. So stay tuned for future videos and I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye!